Hi, I'm Ricky Wysocki, and I'm representing Team Latitude 64, and here's my in the bag. Start off with putters. I'll start off with my throwing putter. My main throwing putter has got to be the Retro Line Mercy. Orange is my favorite color, and this is probably my very first one, my go-to throwing putter. Onto my sidearm putter, and that's the BT Hard Harp. That's very good for upshots. This one's a little bit more beat up, and really dependable, really nice for straight tunnel shots and even wide open shots. I got another BT Hard Harp. This one's blue. This is not quite as beat up, and this is a little bit more overstable than the other yellow one I just showed you. Trusty in the wind, great wind disc. Today is a pretty calm day. I don't know if I'll throw it too much, but usually I'll throw this in when it's a little bit more windy, since the yellow ones are more beat up, not as controllable in the wind. My final throwing putter is probably my most overstable putter. That's a Tournament Plastic Shield. This is a max weight 175. Great for, backhand upshots anywhere from 320 and in. Great control, pretty stable, good in the wind. That's it for putters. I'll start with my mid-ranges, and I have actually 4 of these in the bag right now, and that's my new signature series Wysocki Bomb Compass. This is one of my favorite go-to mid-ranges ever since it got released, and I've been rotating a few of them in the bag ever since they came out. So this is my first one, probably the most beat up. It's good for hyzer flips for me right now since it's perfectly beat up, and this yellow one took my go-to slot for mid-ranges. The next compass is a little bit more new one. I think I just put this in the bag this week for this tournament, and I'm going to be throwing this a lot. Very controllable, a little bit more overstable than the other yellow one I showed you. The other one is more of like a hyzer flip that just holds it, and this one, if I throw it pretty hard on a flex, it'll hyzer back out. Not quite as neutral of a flight as the first one I showed you, but this one's definitely good in the wind. And this other one is yellow as well. It fits right between the slots of the yellow one and the red one that I just showed you. And this is very trustworthy, my most straight mid-range I think I've ever thrown. I like the compass because I have 3 or 4 different wear and tears as far as how stable they are, so I really like the fact that I can rotate them in and out of the bag. I'm really excited to add these Wysocki Bomb compasses to my lineup this year. Alright, we'll go on to the fairway drivers, and my first fairway driver is got to be the Gold Line Stiletto. This is a utility disc for me. Great in all scenarios. Typically when it's a big headwind or pretty good amount of wind, I like the Stiletto because it's going to fight back. It's got a lot of stability, great for controlled shots, sidearm and backhand. So I really like the Gold Line Stiletto. This is also a Gold Line Stiletto, same weight, 174, but it's probably one of my very first discs. It's probably the most beat up disc I have in my bag. It's still a stiletto, so it's got some fight to it, but I like it because it'll hold nice flex lines, and it's always going to come back with that stiletto stability at the end. For my sidearm fairway drivers, this is a 173 Lucid FELON. Probably my most controllable fairway driver as far as sidearms go. You can throw it straight, flex, and hyzers. So I like it for all different types of sidearms. I also have another Lucid FELON. I like to keep pairs of discs. If I like a disc, I like to keep one stable and one beat up. So this is my beat up FELON. I can manipulate it a little bit more because it's more beat up than the first orange one I showed you. So it's definitely seasoned. But that being said, I've thrown a lot of shots with it, so I know this disc. This is probably my most trustworthy disc as far as fairway drivers go. So that's the first run Lucid FELON. For the next fairway driver, I have the Optoline XXX. This is probably my most overstable disc in my bag. It's mean disc, super hard finish at the end for sidearms and backhands. That's why I like it. I know right where it's going to go, no matter which way I throw it, sidearm or backhand. So this is definitely a trustworthy disc, Optoline XXX. Next disc is my roller disc. That's the Optoline Vision. This is my straight roller. I have, I think, 3 rollers in my bag, and this is the straightest one I have. It doesn't really curl too much, and it doesn't really cut to the left too much. So when I throw backhand rollers, it's just going to hold that nice straight flight and curl a little bit at the end. So I like the Optoline Vision. This one's beat up perfectly for my straight slot roller. So I'm really happy to have this in the lineup for this year. Next roller disc is the Optoline Saint. It's pretty stable as far as rollers go for me. It's probably my late flip roller. It goes straight for a long ways. I can hold a straight line for about 400 or 500 feet with the roller. So this is my most stable roller. Probably the longest rollers I've ever thrown have been with this Saint. So this is my longest, straightest roller I have. It's not going to curl left or right too much either way. It's just going to hold straight. That's why I like it. So for long rollers, I like the Optoline Saint. And then the final roller is the Goldline Havoc. This is my quick flip roller. It's pretty new to the bag. I really enjoy the flight of it though. I know it's going to curl pretty quick when I throw rollers with it, so it's pretty trustworthy. Don't get too much distance out of it, but it's more for controlled rollers. And now on to my thrower fairway drivers. That would be the Saint Pro. This is a Goldline Saint Pro, max weight. This is well seasoned, so I'd like to throw long hyzer flips with this one. I can hit a lot of straight tunnel shots. Pretty good for the woods, mostly on the East Coast, not too many in the West Coast, but really trustworthy fairway driver, hyzer flips. This is also another Saint Pro, Johnny McRae edition, signature series, and I like this for a little bit more stable straight shots, and it's got a little bit of finish at the end, unlike the other one that's beat up. I like to throw stable to straight tunnel shots, long range, between 450 with this Saint Pro. My final fairway driver is the Goldline Spark. This is my newest addition to the bag. It's a new signature series Feldberg edition. He retweaked the model. It's a pretty straight flyer. It's got a little bit of finish at the end, but you can always count on it coming back. It's one of my go-to fairway drivers. Now on to my distance drivers. I think I only have two distance drivers, two different models at least, just because I like to keep it simple and have a lot of different types of the same disc, but just different wear and tear. So I'll start with my Tournament Plastic Giant. This is one of my favorite go-to long-range controllable distance drivers. I know exactly what it's going to do. It's got a pretty neutral flight as far as Giants go, but this is definitely my long-range go-to driver. My other model for distance drivers is the Enforcer. This one happens to be a Decodye Saki Bomb stamp Enforcer. This is probably my longest range disc in my bag. I can throw this thing for miles. Very well seasoned. Really can control this thing for long range shots. I have another Enforcer here. It's also a Fusion Enforcer, max weight. Not quite as seasoned as the other one, the Saki Bomb series Enforcer, but this is one of my also favorite Enforcers. It's always going to have a stable finish at the end, and they're really controllable. I also have another Fusion Enforcer. Like I said, I like to keep multiples of the same model of disc, and so I feel under control with that disc. If I throw that disc well, I have 3 different types of discs to throw. So I really like to keep it simple when I make my disc selections and add discs in and out of the bag. This one fits right between the two I showed you earlier. Pretty straight flyer as far as Enforcers go. It's got a pretty neutral flight for long range shots. Also another Fusion Enforcer. This is probably my most overstable disc in the bag. It's got a long finish. It's got a pretty controlled flight into headwinds even. So I really like the long, stable finish at the end. And it's my most overstable controlled disc in the bag. All right, now we'll move on to my putting putters. And I like to putt with the Zero Hard Dagger. This is one that happens to be the Dave Feldberg signature series. I have 4 of these for practice and for, obviously for the tournaments. That's my main putter. It comes in 0 medium and 0 soft. I like a really stiff putter to know I have control of the putter. I just like the stiffness. It feels like it's the most controllable, consistent plastic out of our lineup.
Nice putt, Ricky.
I feel the most confident with this disc in my whole bag, so definitely the Zero Hard Dagger is my favorite disc, favorite putter I've ever putted with. No, no, I don't like marshmallow putters too much. Nope.